on the Bleav Podcast Network.
Yes, we are live once again in prime time. It is a Thursday. No Rick Ucchino here with us. That's why I gave a little edited edition of our opening here. It is SP3 alongside Jeremy Bennett for another edition of the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast, coming off an even more noteworthy, newsworthy AEW Dynamite than even what we talked about last Thursday. Jeremy, how are you doing today? Coming
Good,
off
man.
of a busy day when it comes to everything All Elite Wrestling, before Dynamite, after Dynamite, and then all the news that dropped earlier today on Fightful.
Man, I tell you what, though, I didn't get to watch Dynamite last night. I watched it this afternoon, and boy, I was sure in shock by the top story that we're going to talk about. And man, then what a main event we had last night in the trios match with United Empire and Will Ospreay and Death Triangle. Man, that was a great main event, and again, a very solid Dynamite. All Out card kind of feels a little weird to me, but I think overall in the end, it's going to be a good show. It just kind of feels a little weird, but some of that might just be circumstance and things that are happening backstage, which also we'll be talking about later tonight.
Yes, it's a lot of turmoil, a lot of things going on in the world of All Elite Wrestling, and we are here to discuss it, and we welcome everyone. It's about 12 of you, 13 of you already joining us. Remember to drop the thumbs up on this video, share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. Rick dropped a fantastic interview with Damian Priest earlier this week. With me and Rick, we did our regular live show on Tuesday, coming off a very newsworthy as well Monday Night Raw. It's just a good time to be a professional wrestling fan. You get some good wrestling on Mondays, you get some good wrestling on Wednesday. Even Tuesday has kind of gotten better under Triple H. And if you're a fan of all things wrestling, you got Impact Wrestling tonight, and then tomorrow you got Rampage and SmackDown. But it's a good time to be a wrestling fan, and a good time to be a fan of the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast. And remember to sound off in the live chat. We love the interactive nature of this podcast as well. We got Safit here with us saying what's up, guys. We got Steven Chambers in the live chat here with us. Sound off, let us know what you thought about last night's AEW Dynamite. To kind of echo what Jeremy said, it was stunning, to say the least, of what we're going to talk about as the lead story coming out of AEW Dynamite. Build the biggest main event matchup in AEW Dynamite history, and it happened in the middle of the show. We had Jon Moxley going up against CM Punk to determine the undisputed AEW World Champion, and in just under 3 minutes, Jon Moxley utterly destroys CM Punk after CM Punk re-injures his broken foot, planting it wrong, I guess, and re-injuring the foot, and then Moxley completely bombards him, elbow strikes, twisting at the foot, and 2 paradigm shifts later, Jon Moxley, undisputed AEW World Champion. What was your thoughts on this matchup? It was a squash.
Yeah.
One of the first squash matches for the AEW World Championship that they've ever done.
Yeah, I don't know what the bigger plan that they have cooked is here, but my initial reaction was just wow. Did not expect the ref to count 3. I don't think I've seen a crowd so stunned since Brock Lesnar beat Undertaker at WrestleMania 30. You saw the faces in the crowd just going, "What just happened?" And I felt the same way watching that match. I was truly just befuddled, and I'm wondering, are they playing into a lot of the speculation saying Punk's not happy in AEW, which I don't believe is true. I think he's perfectly fine. Maybe they're playing into some of that. I've seen some theories that this is a catalyst for him to turn heel, where he blames the fans for pushing him to get into this match way too soon before he was ready. and look what happened. And so now he's going to blame the fans, you people. He's going to blame you people for this and turn him heel maybe as a result. But now it's like, okay, maybe then we answered who's going to be in the main event. We don't know, which is another odd thing. This is such an oddly put together pay-per-view with injuries, suspensions, turmoil. We'll get into all of that later. But it's such a weird pay-per-view that now we don't know what the main event is.
Yeah, but I really feel like it adds to the intrigue going into All Out. Like, I didn't come out of this matchup like, oh, why they do it? Like, if we would have got the screwy finish that a lot of people were predicting, I would have been like, oh, why they do it? And if we would have got somebody like MJF returning to kind of make this a non-finish, I would have been like, it feels too early to bring back MJF. I think All Out is the perfect setting for him to make his return there. In any type of scenario that they want to make him return there, I think that's the right place to bring him back. So I didn't even like that. And I didn't like, a 20-minute barn burner where CM Punk or Jon Moxley wins, because if you are doing this match again, you are giving away the pay-per-view matchup too early. You're giving it away 2 weeks early. In this sense, they've kind of saved the pay-per-view quality matchup. They've kind of given CM Punk a reason to be the babyface going into Chicago, as he's going to be on, an injured foot, and he's going to be in his hometown. Now he's in the challenger position. So not only is he, it's not him trying to unify the AEW World Championship, it's trying for him to get back the title and get over this kind of streak that he has in Cleveland. In Cleveland, he walked out of WWE. He lost his first UFC fight to Mickey Gall, and then he gets squashed for the AEW World Championship. So yeah, see, if I'm CM Punk, I am never booking a flight to Cleveland ever again in my life.
Nope, never. He's not going to like that town. It has not treated him well at all. I guess you'd have to. I mean, you almost have to have the rematch for All Out. You can't just throw another title match in there with absolutely no build. It makes no sense. So it'll be interesting. You think Punk might be the babyface here? I think he's going to be the heel. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Next week's the go home show. So
I just think there's no way you make CM Punk the heel in Chicago. It's basically what WWE tried to do in 2001, where the Texas crowd were always going to be in favor of Stone Cold, and they decided to turn him heel and align with Vince McMahon. It just didn't take, and it led to basically that heel turn is considered the catalyst of ending the most successful era in WWE history, the Attitude Era. So I don't think it's a wise decision. I think coming out of All Out, yes, CM Punk should be the heel, but at All Out, I think they've positioned him to be the babyface, because Jon Moxley is now the big bad. Like, that was just a dominant performance. Like you said, Brock Lesnar against The Undertaker, it felt more like a mixture of Brock Lesnar versus John Cena from SummerSlam 2014 mixed with Brody Lee defeating Cody for the TNT Championship. It was kind of a hodgepodge of those two things combined into one. How dominant this victory was for Moxley.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. I mean, is based on what happened, is Punk going to be ready? Hypothetically with what he did. So, or is he faking it? I don't know. Why would he fake it to lose the match? But I don't know. There's a lot of questions left to be answered. It's going to be interesting to see where they go next Wednesday.
Yes, we got a bunch of y'all in the live chat. Keep those thoughts coming. We got Safit, who says it was nuts. We got Queen Mo, who says, I just wanted Moxley to win and I didn't care how he did it, but I didn't expect him to do it like that. I don't think anyone did. I don't think anyone really did.
No. That crowd, just showing the shots of the crowd just said it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I do say that. Matt Black saying Punk does something heelish to beat Mox at all out, but he ain't going into the match as a heel. Come on, JB. Yeah, I don't see him going into the match as a heel. I can see him doing something heelish to win, but still getting cheered. And then maybe in the other places AEW goes after that, he could cut heel promos and get that heel heat that he would get anywhere else outside of Chicago.
It'll be interesting if he does win. You got your first ever 2-time world champion in Moxley officially on Wednesday. Then you get a second 2-time champion if Punk does win. It'll be interesting to see. But obviously, if he does turn heel, it makes sense for him to win the title because then, then you can have a whole slew of baby faces chasing that. Bryan Danielson being probably my number one pick for the next pay-per-view.
Could see that. Could see maybe even a babyface MJF coming back, or
babyface MJF. What kind of world do we live in when babyface MJF is said in the same sentence?
Crazy world we are living in, and it's crazy behind the scenes in AEW. Just when it seemed like all the people were coming back from injuries, Jeremy, we get a major injury announced on Dynamite, as well as Thunder Rosa cut a very emotional interview backstage, announcing that first it was kind of confusing because it kind of sounded like she was relinquishing the title at first, but then it was later revealed that at All Out there'll be a fatal four-way to determine the interim AEW Women's World Champion. So Thunder Rosa is injured and she's out. She won't be defending against Toni Storm. It's now going to be Toni Storm versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, versus Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida to determine the interim AEW Women's World Champion. But the more bigger story happened today, as after Dynamite, there was rumors and reports running rapid. First, Voices of Wrestling talked about that there was major heat between Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Thunder Rosa, which, I mean, yeah, do horses have hair on them? Yes, they do. This kind of seemed fairly obvious that yes, Dr. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa don't like each other, because you can't fake the type of heat that they usually show with one another. But they also said that Jamie Hayter had developed some heat with Thunder Rosa after suffering the broken nose against her at Battle of the Bells 3, and we heard kind of silly rumors like Thunder Rosa hid in the bathroom after their matchup with Jamie Hayter. So now Fightful has come out with their own report confirming certain parts of Voices of Wrestling's report, and they indicate that Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa can't stand each other, with that having been the case for well over a year. Still, the two attempted to remain professional and work with each other, and from what Fightful had been told, remain open to doing so for the sake of simply doing their jobs. However, Jamie Hayter also had developed heat with Rosa after she got her nose broken in a match recently. Much of the heat on Rosa has emerged from her working stiff in the ring. And it was also reported that the original plan for All Out was for Toni Storm to emerge victorious and win the AEW Women's World Title from Thunder Rosa. So before we get into the other part of reported backstage issues with Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara, what's your thoughts on this whole situation concerning Thunder Rosa, the heat, and her injury now out of All Out?
Well, this is a business where not everybody is going to be friends, and that's just the nature of the business. It's not, if it's surprising to people that not everybody gets along, look at just what it takes to get on top, what it takes to get noticed, and things like that. Jealousy is going to play into it a lot, or just personalities clashing. This is a high volatile type of business, so. It's not a surprise, but yet at the same time, it gives you good television. Look at that lights out match we got between those guys. They hate each other. Hey, we win because we get ourselves a good show. It's a shame that Thunder Rosa is hurt, though. I'd love to have seen her compete against Toni Storm, even though it kind of the whole making sense of all of this teaming up and now fighting each other again is kind of up in the air. It still would have been a great match. I think the word is Toni Storm was going to win anyways, so I wouldn't be surprised if she takes that interim belt at All Out. With Steven in the chat asking what kind of injury. It sounds like bulging discs in her back is the injury. So that'll hopefully subside relatively soon. But obviously, it's clear Toni does not like relinquishing titles and would rather go the interim route, which is kind of unique. It's something WWE doesn't do. So that's kind of probably why they're doing it. And honestly, I don't hate the idea, to be honest with you. I think it's we see when there's no champion in WWE for some time, when like Brock was part-time, Roman now. You get this gives you a champion on your show every week. So I honestly like the idea. But it's a shame that the match has to change, but it's kind of cool that a couple other women and Jamie Hayter and Shida are gonna now have a match at All Out.
Yeah, I think for people who say, they're sick of the interim championships and Thunder Rosa should have relinquished the title, imagine, Tony Khan usually gets heat because his booking of the women's division, to say the least, hasn't been the greatest. It's been somewhat horrible at times. Yeah. And imagine the heat he would have gotten if he didn't decide to do a interim women's world championship and would have relinquished the title from Thunder Rosa after allowing CM Punk to hold on to the world title. It would have been World War II in the social media wrestling verse, the wrestling community, if he would have done that. I think it makes sense. It builds to a bigger matchup, and he wants to do Toni Storm versus Thunder Rosa. So I do think that Toni Storm is definitely the favorite, but we'll talk about who we think will walk out the interim AEW Women's World Champion in a bit. But first, there's the other part of the backstage drama and issues that are coming out of AEW Dynamite with Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara. So late last night after Dynamite, reports emerged that Eddie Kingston had been suspended from AEW kind of quietly under the radar type of thing. And then Fightful released a report saying that Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara were supposed to compete at All Out, but that doesn't seem like it's happening. AEW hasn't confirmed one was or another, but Eddie Kingston has been off television the last couple of weeks, with Fightful gaining word that he was briefly suspended by the company. Fightful has been unable to confirm that with All Elite Wrestling, but I've heard that he's already completed it. Kingston has not been present at recent All Elite Wrestling segments, and they've been told that at least one segment to build the once planned All Out match with Guevara and Kingston had been scrapped. Rumors among the talent that they've heard that Kingston and Guevara had developed heat, and it devolved into an altercation. And the word backstage was that Guevara made a comment about Kingston's physique, and Kingston took a swing at him. This was later kind of divulged in a different report earlier today, where they gave a kind of a more recounting of everything that happened. Fightful was told that Eddie Kingston was mad because Sammy Guevara hadn't spoken with Eddie or cleared the content of a promo that ended up being edited off a show. The two had not conversed since the Blood and Guts show, where Kingston threw Guevara off of the steel cage. They've heard that Kingston had asked to work with Sammy, who didn't have people exactly angling to work with him after his feud with Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. Those that Fightful spoke to said that there were certain clear parameters set on Sammy Guevara's feuds and promos, to not mention his ex-fiance, which we're told has never come up or been pitched anyway. The original plan was for Eddie Kingston to win the all-out match. In the edited out promo, Sammy Guevara referred to Kingston as a fat piece of shit, which Kingston took exception to, as he felt it buried the match if a fat piece of shit beat him. The crux of the frustration, however, was how Sammy Guevara followed up with this after being perceived as difficult to work with in previous feuds. After that, Fightful was told that Kingston had yelled at Sammy Guevara, who yelled at him. Kingston responded by pie-facing Guevara, and Sammy ended up being incredibly unhappy with this, and Kingston was suspended for 2 weeks. Fightful was unable to reach out to Eddie Kingston, who wouldn't confirm the recounting. They were able to reach out to Eddie Kingston, who wouldn't confirm the recounting of events, but said, I was wrong. That is all. And then just before we got started here, another report came out where Sammy Guevara gave a quote to Fightful saying, and I quote, as a professional, you communicate things that you don't want to be said, like other people I've been in programs with and have worked with, Matt Hardy, Jericho, and others. And I did communicate of what I didn't want to be said in the angle, and Eddie didn't. But Eddie did not do the same, and Eddie did not mention to me or the coaches or TK or anyone in AEW what he didn't want said. So after ties and my match with Sky Blue and Dante, I cut a promo on Eddie, insulting Eddie and the fans as a heel, which I know the thing everyone loves to do is hate me and Ty. So I'm the perfect person to play this asshole character for Eddie to ultimately beat at All Out. I see what people say online about Eddie and his appearance, which anyone who legitimately shames Eddie for how he looks can go to hell. It's the same people who shame me for being too small. So Sammy Guevara, the character, I could be the physical person playing that person that Eddie can shut up at All Out. But Eddie did not do the professional thing and communicate to me, which if he did, I would have never said it, because the last thing I want to do is hurt someone for real. So after the promo, I get to the back and Eddie is flipping out, yelling, "You can't call me fat," over and over, as I'm trying to walk down the stairs in Gorilla, making a big scene. People get in between us. Eddie tries to pie face me, and he more or less touches my face. It was weird. And everyone backs everyone up. It was unfortunate because this promo was on a tape show and easily could have been edited out, which they ended up doing anyways. I know this isn't Eddie's first time being aggressive and getting out of control backstage. I know he had to do some kind of anger management after this whole thing. This whole thing was very unnecessary, but it is what it is. Live and learn, I guess. On to the next one.
Yeah, I think at this point it's water under the bridge. Eddie has admitted he was wrong. And they probably should have had a communication, and that's probably part of the reason for the talent meeting that Toni had here. Was it yesterday?
Before Dynamite.
Yeah. So communication is key, and a lot of these people are complaining about their status or things like that. They're probably not talking to Toni. The communication is key. You got to talk with your boss. You got to talk with your coworkers and be on the same page, and things like this won't happen again. I think I see Sammy's point of view. It was kind of a good booking, but again, they should have communicated and asked Eddie if it was okay. Eddie, of course, already admitted he was wrong of it. So, I think we're past it at this point. It's unfortunate that we're not getting the match, because it probably would have been a hell of a good match. But I think in the end, I think it's a positive. I think Eddie realizes what he did wrong. Sammy probably realizes what he did wrong, and going forward, maybe Sammy will be better to work with, and Eddie will, Eddie's always going to be Eddie, but realizes this is his biggest moment or biggest break of his career. So I think he's smart enough to realize that he'll be better going forward too.
Yeah, like kind of what Sammy said in his quote, you live and learn, and I think this is a learning experience for Eddie. And I got where Sammy was coming from. I was firmly on the side of kind of Eddie Kingston after hearing the recounting of events, but after hearing, there's always, point A of the one side of the story, another side of the story, and then there's somewhere in the middle. After hearing all the different sides of this, I can kind of see it where Eddie kind of got a little out of hand, got a little out of control, and kind of overreacted to something that Sammy wasn't trying to, put him down in real life. He was trying to put him down as the character to kind of give, the heat for this match coming up at All Out. And now it seems like the match at All Out is not going to happen.
Nope. So now we got to figure out what we're going to add to that card. Right now there's 8 matches. I figure they're probably going to add at least 1 or 2 more. Usually they have a lot more, about up to 10 to 12 on a card for AEW. So I don't know what even is left. I guess they don't officially have the world title match on there yet. So
no,
that'll be added, and then they'll probably figure something else out. Maybe add something else into the buy-in too. Maybe, I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's a shame because it would have been a good match.
For sure. We got Matt Black who says, I think Eddie's statement put things under the bridge, but Sammy putting out his blew up the bridge instead. I can't imagine TK was thrilled about Sammy putting this out there after the talent meeting. I mean, honestly, I kind of thought the same thing because I was like, this Sammy's kind of comments that he gave to Fightful kind of pulled the curtain back a little too far, in my opinion. Like, I know, you want to get your side of the story out there, but, saying that, this is Sammy Guevara, the character, trying to get heat, kind of giving away that the finish was supposed to have Eddie win. And I thought that was like pulling back the curtain a little too much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens with Sammy and Eddie, but we got so much to talk about coming out of Dynamite, going into All Out next week. Big show, so let's get into it with the 5 count.
It's time to answer the 5 count on the Bleav Podcast Network.
About Moxley and CM Punk, Jeremy. So we got to talk about what we now think should be the main event of All Out. We kind of alluded to it that we both believe Punk and Moxley are going to have their rematch, but that's why I put what should be the main event of All Out, coming out of Moxley's dominant win over CM Punk on last night's Dynamite. What do you think should be the main event of All Out on September 4th, Jeremy?
Well, the fact that we are only 9 days away from it, 10 days away from it, you can't really build anything new. It makes no sense. So I think it's Punk. There's going to be some reasons for what happened last night, and those will be explained on Wednesday next week, and then we get the rematch and All Out, because you got to have Punk in that main event in Chicago. I don't think there's any other way to go.
I gotta agree with you. Punk has to be in the main event. I think that it's too short of a build, even if they announce, the a new All Out main event, whether they put like Hangman, Adam Page, or Darby Allin, 2 guys that are in the top 5 ranking.
Unless the Joker wrestles that night. That's about the only other thing you could do.
You can do something like that as well. But yeah, I think that Punk and Moxley are the 2 biggest stars in AEW, so they have to be in this one. But I think after the dominant win of Jon Moxley, you got to put some type of stipulation on this. You can't just give us, the same Punk versus Moxley and expect people to want to see this, or they expect to drive, last minute ticket sales or last minute pay-per-view buys. So yeah. I think it should be Punk versus Moxley, lights out. The kind of Moxley's forte, Moxley's type of matchup, since Moxley got his the one-on-one undisputed championship matchup in his home state of Ohio. Punk says, we're gonna have the match now in my hometown of Chicago, and I want it in your type of match. I now have to beat you in your type of match, the lights out unsanctioned match.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like the idea that Moxley has to drive the narrative in order for Punk to get another shot. And so I think that makes complete sense right there.
Yes. 10 days away from All Out, but that's not the only big title match that people are thinking about, just the AEW World Championship. Now they're going to determine an AEW Interim Women's World Champion. So we kind of alluded to it with the Thunder Rosa injury. It's going to be Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, Jamie Hayter, Toni Storm, and Hikaru Shida. I'm very glad Hikaru Shida is on this show. She's the only woman that's been on all 4 editions of All Out now. And this Fatal 4-Way is kind of something, Jeremy, I've been talking with Rick for weeks about, that I wanted Thunder Rosa in there with, 3 of the women in the place of Shida, but I'm glad we're getting the 4-way. We needed something to kind of juice this up, make this more interesting. This is definitely more interesting than straight up Toni Storm versus Thunder Rosa. But who walks out the AEW Interim Women's World Champion?
Well, Sheeta hasn't really been featured much lately. I think Hayter and Britt, I think the relationship's gonna dissolve here, start to dissolve with this match. I'm surprised they've lasted this long together. I figured one was gonna turn on the other by now, but I think we're gonna get the beginnings of that here. And so with all three of those things in play, I think it's easily safe to say that Toni Storm is gonna win this, in my opinion.
I would definitely usually agree with you, but I'm all here for the AEW women's division getting more, and they deserve more because the talent has improved exponentially over the last couple of years, with the additions of Toni Storm, Thunder Rosa, Athena, Jade Cargill. They got their mainstays that they've had since day one, like Hikaru Shida, Britt Baker, Nyla Rose. But it seems like the AEW women's division only really matters when one person has the gold. And that one person is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. So I'm saying Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, regains the gold, and they should play into the reports. You got the report saying that her and Thunder Rosa have this heat. I don't think there's any bigger matchup that they can deliver on than Dr. Britt Baker, DMD versus Thunder Rosa. One more time for the undisputed Women's World Championship.
Yeah, and it's been enough time since that feud and the lights out match that it would be exciting to have again. And obviously, she is the top player in AEW. Britt Baker is, so I would not hate that as well. Then you can have someone like Toni Storm chasing Britt Baker at that point, because you're going to have Britt retain against Thunder Rosa. So then you could have Toni eventually maybe take it off of Britt down the road.
And you can also have something where they've had these interim champions with the TNT title, with the world title, but they've never had the interim champion lose the title. If the whole plan from the beginning was for Toni Storm to eventually get the title, instead of giving her, the interim championship at All Out, you can have Britt win it at All Out and then Toni take it off of her at like Grand Slam or, so another big show. You got the anniversary show in October, so you can have something different with this interim Women's World Championship to make it different than the interim World Championship or the interim TNT title.
Yeah, definitely.
But before we get to All Out on September 4th, Jeremy, it's a big one next week. AEW Dynamite. I totally agree with what you said earlier. Last night, AEW Dynamite, the main event was one of the greatest trios matches, not just in AEW history, one of the greatest trio matches I've ever seen. Like nonstop action. I do my review for AEW Dynamite over on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. I had almost a full page of notes of the different moves at different sequences that went down. You had Ospreay versus Rey Fenix at times. You had Ospreay and Pac creating magic together. You had Aussie Open and Lucha Bros having some great action. You had the return of Kip Sabian here, and then the big finish with the elevated Oscutter. So the United Empire, Will Ospreay and Aussie Open, move on to the Dynamite Finals, and across the ring will be Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, the Elite. We get Kenny and Will in the ring together. So who wins next week on Dynamite, Jeremy? Is it the Elite or the United Empire?
It's gonna be the Elite, because I think the story that is set out there is gonna be Dark Order and the Elite in the end. And what's Hangman gonna do? Is he gonna turn on the Dark Order? Or is he gonna join the Dark Order? Maybe if not everybody can compete. There's a lot of questions and a lot of stories there. So I think that that is your only option, really, is to have them in. I know some people thought having Ospreay and Omega face off before like a Wrestle Kingdom is a bad idea. I think it's a good precursor. There's been a lot of history, and I think this is a good warm up to lead to something like that at Wrestle Kingdom, or maybe these two face off at Arthur Ashe or something else. It may not necessarily be Wrestle Kingdom, but I'm excited for that matchup on that left side of the bracket. But I think it's obvious that it's going to be the Elite coming out on top.
I gotta agree with you on this one. Even though Will Ospreay, my lord, he's having one of the greatest
That
in
double
ring.
that double poison Rana spot with him and Pac was just tremendous, man.
Staring at each other afterwards. I was so excited to see. I'm excited to see Will Ospreay versus Ray Phoenix after that
Yeah,
match. Will
yeah,
Ospreay versus Pac. I would love to see. Love to see Aussie Open versus the Lucha Bros after that matchup. And Will Ospreay just had one of the best weeks in wrestling this past week, whether it was 3 nights of the G1, getting a win over Juice Robinson, a great matchup against Tetsuya Naito, a match of the year candidate against Kazuka Okada. Then he flew to
yep.
England to have a banger with Speedball Mike Bailey, then lose the Rev Pro British Undisputed Heavyweight Championship after a 2-year reign to Ricky Knight Jr., RKJ, and then flew down to Cleveland to have that tremendous trios match with Death Triangle. What a week for him, but the
He could
week is
re-
going to come up short, and the Elite are going to move on to the finals.
he could wrestle a microphone and it'd be a 5-star match. So
I mean, he kind of wrestled a microphone after the show with the comments Omega and Ospreay said to each other. Did you catch that?
I did. I saw it on Twitter here, but I did not watch it yet. I'll need to catch that when we get done here.
Yes, definitely. It got very heated on the mic with these two. So I, like you, I'm looking forward to whenever it happens, whether it's Wrestle Kingdom, whether it's Full Gear, whether it's next year's Forbidden Door 2. I'm ready for Omega and Ospreay, and I think that next week is going to be the little sample that we need to get our mouse watered to watch this matchup here. But let's go to the 4 count of another dream match that was teased last night. They gave us basically last week. They made the challenge Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal, and Saddam Singh for a trios match against FTR and Wardlow, and everybody was like, "Oh man, why does the TNT champion not defend the title again? Why does FTR not defend one of their 3 titles? Why do they have to be stuck in a trios match with Jay Lethal, Saddam Singh, and Sanjay Dutt?" And then Sanjay pulls out the rabbit out of his hat after a really good opener between Jay Lethal and Dax Harwood, with Jay Lethal getting the win. Sanjay Dutt said, "We challenged you to a trios match, but we didn't say who Lethal's partners would be. It's not Saddam Singh. It's not Sanjay Dutt. It is instead Impact Wrestling's own, the Motor City Machine Gun." So this turned into a dream trios matchup, but coming out of it, Jeremy, do you think we get FTR versus the Motor City Machine Guns coming out of All Out?
I would hope so, but they're with Impact Wrestling, so it's hard telling. But obviously, the relationship is good, so that would be a definite thing. You got to wonder when they're going to challenge for the AEW tag titles at some point. You wonder if they're going to add those to their ever-growing stack of belts that they carry to the ring. They're going to have to start pushing them out in a shopping cart pretty soon because they got so many belts. But yeah, I really hope this leads to this at some point, because that is a definition of a dream match right there. Legendary team of Sabin and Shelley taking on yet another. It was basically a legendary team of the 2010s taking on a legendary team of today, and that's definitely something we hopefully will see down the road.
Yeah, the Motor City Machine Guns, if you don't know, they're one of the most influential tag teams of this generation. Kind of the tag team style that the Young Bucks have kind of popularized. Other teams like the Briscoes, the other name that kind of puts into that triangle of kind of innovating this generation of tag team wrestling is the Motor City Machine Guns. And now FTR is kind of revolution now, kind of emerging of the style that the Motor City Machine Guns popularized, mixed with more of like the 80s old school psychology based tag team wrestling, and they're bringing it into the furthering of the 2020s. So I would love to see this match for the ROH World Tag Team titles, IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles, or AAA Tag Team titles. Give it to me at Grand Slam in New York. You got that big stadium. You need big matchups for that show. That's only, I believe, 2 weeks after All Out. You got to make these big matches, and that's a big match that I would love to see. So I'm booking it now. FTR versus Motor City Machine Guns in New York at Grand Slam.
Yeah, timing is definitely right, especially if it plays into the Impact schedule. That's the beauty of Impact Wrestling. You got the majority of the month to do other things. And so, and it's great that Tony Khan and Scott D'Amore have a great relationship to give us things like this. And that's a perfect idea because, I mean, if that's just a couple of weeks afterwards, keep that momentum going and give us that official dream match.
Definitely here for it, but outside of all the dream matches and feuds that are going down at All Out, we talked about what we think is going to be the main event. We talked about that 4-way, the trios finals is going to go down. You got a bunch of grudge matches with Jungle Boy versus Christian. You got a Powerhouse Hobbs versus Ricky Starks. But a match that hasn't been talked about a lot is the Casino Ladder match. Casino Ladder match has delivered some great big moments and big returns, and always in the Casino Ladder match there is the Joker. During the first Casino Ladder match back at Double or Nothing 2020, Brian Cage made his debut and won from the Joker spot. In 2021, Hangman Adam Page made his return after a few months off to win the Casino Ladder match and then go on to beat Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship at Full Gear. Now, my question for you, Jeremy, our final question of the 5 count. Who do you think will be the Joker in the Casino Ladder match on September 4th at All Out in Chicago?
The obvious answer is MJF because he's been completely silent since this has all gone down, since he used the F-bomb on TV. And Tony Khan refuses to talk about it. So I'm kind of wondering, did they make this a pseudo surprise? You know, a lot of people are probably going to say Bray Wyatt, but I think if he wrestles again, he's going to WWE, I think.
Yeah.
But Redbeard's there, so I don't know. You know, he's got friends there, so it's hard telling where his mind is at, and he really gives you no clues. So, you know, it's really hard to tell, but I don't think it's going to be Bray Wyatt, though a lot of people will say so. I honestly think unless it's Kazuchika Okada would be kind of cool, you know. Tetsuya Naito, isn't he coming to the States soon?
I believe they're doing the shows in New York coming up in October, but I don't think that's
not
as soon as Chicago. So
I really can't think of anybody other than MJF to logically put in there unless Tony's got something really wild up his sleeve. I can't think of anybody but MJF here.
Yeah, I mean, he sounds like the perfect scenario that kind of fits into what they did with Hangman Adam Page last year, where Hangman Adam Page was number 1 in the ranking and then lost that 10-man tag against the Elite with the Dark Order and lost his number 1, ranking. So then he had to go home and kind of think about that. And then he came back, won the Casino Ladder match to kind of reinsert himself as the number 1 contender. The main question with everybody, we kind of alluded to a lot of fans thinking that MJF would come back and be directly into the world title scene, and this kind of seems like their way to get there. Their means to get him back into a main event position is him returning in the Joker spot, winning the Casino Ladder match. I think I see Steven with a pretty good shot here saying Kota Ibushi. I know Kota Ibushi is still hurt at the moment, so I don't know if he'll be back that soon. Honestly, that sounds like too soon for him to be back based on he got a very serious injury in the G1 Climax tournament last October, and he's still been recovering from it. That's why he hasn't returned to New Japan. Hiromu Takahashi is another guy that I would love to see in this type of scenario if they're kind of continuing their relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I do know a bunch bunch of Impact stars will be in Chicago during that weekend as well. So you could throw someone in there like an Eddie Edwards, Speedball, Mike Bailey, maybe. That would be kind of interesting. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement. Feet saying the same thing. MJF is definitely the Joker.
Control Your Narrative seems pretty dead at this point. What if an Adam Scherr comes over? But again, that's another guy that I think would probably go back to WWE over AEW. But again, there's a guy that's out there that could possibly, because EC3 is out there again in other companies. He's wrestling for NWA now, so you got to wonder if Adam Scherr is going to pop up somewhere at some point too.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see Adam Scherr going back to WWE, especially if Bray Wyatt goes. I think it'd be the perfect scenario to kind of put him with Eric Redbeard and Braun Strowman.
That'd be kind of cool. That'd be kind of cool, to be honest.
the Wyatt family in WWE. I think that would be
some sort of tribute to Luke Harper. Would be that'd be kind of cool. I honestly either put that in either company, and I would love to see that.
Yes, but that brings us to a close on this edition of the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast. We hope Rick Ucchino is proud of us holding down the fort for the fearless leader of.
We didn't set anything on fire, or did we? Or did we? I don't know.
Maybe you're known for that, not me. But Jeremy, thank you as always. Let the people know where they can find you, good sir.
Find me on the Twitter at JB Huskers. I'll be live tweeting. I don't know if I'll be live tweeting SmackDown. Tomorrow's my birthday. I turned 43. So
yes.
But actually, it's kind of weird. This whole weekend of fun and games. I'm going to a concert from here, and I got a party on Saturday. But I think Friday actually is going to be kind of a chill night. So I might be live tweeting SmackDown. We'll see what happens from there. So follow me there. Otherwise, I'll be live tweeting most of the shows on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday as well. So have fun along with me and give me a follow.
And everybody in the chat, join me and let's hit it. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Oh no, I forgot I'm black. Remix. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Yes, it is Jeremy's birthday.
Thank you.
Weekend. Follow him at JB Huskers. Wish him a happy birthday tomorrow or just in a few hours if you're on the East Coast for his birthday. He's a great guy to talk wrestling with. So go over and follow him. Wish him a happy birthday. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at TrueHeelSP3. I'll be with Rick Ucchino and Dutch Mantel tomorrow on the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel reviewing SmackDown and AEW Rampage. And then Saturday, 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time, the True Heel Heat flagship podcast. Myself, Miss Chrissy Love, will be joined by Bad Blood of bodyslam.net to talk about this week in wrestling, Johnny Gargano's return, CM Punk and squashed by Jon Moxley, still can't believe that, Thunder Rosa's injury, the backstage heat, all that good stuff. True Heel Heat, TrueHeelHeat. Follow us on all your favorite social media platforms for that as well. And remember, drop the thumbs up on this video, share it with your friends, subscribe if you are new to the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast. For the ghost of Rick Ucchino, for the birthday boy Jeremy Bennett, it is me, your True Heel Phenom SP3, and Bleav in Pro Wrestling. Until next time.